Um, the I guess I would just make a couple of introductory remarks, and I'd like to have a kind of question and answer session. Um, I was here, as was Peter, 20 years ago. I was here a little more than 20 years ago, so I missed the big change. Um, yeah, yeah. It was sort of the standard GDR 1980s experience when I was here, and that meant that we really failed to perceive that change was coming in the dimensions that it was, in fact, coming. Um, and also, I left Germany after that in 1987, so I spent the time from 1985 to 1987 working in East Berlin, and didn't come back except for a few private visits until 2006, so I was gone for a very long time. So naturally, my perceptions of the actual events of the fall of the wall were sort of those of a person who was not in Germany. I watched it on TV. At the time, I was already back in Washington, D.C. for a follow-on tour. And then I came back here and have been confronted by all the sort of remarkable things that have changed in the meantime. But I thought I'd just mention two conversations that I've had recently, because now we're beginning to process some of this experience a little bit more. And we have a lot of people, Peter among them, who had very vivid memories of the actual years of the transformation that took place here. Yeah. And, it's fascinating to run into people who are successful in the sort of German Federal Republic as former Easterners. There aren't huge numbers of them, but you find them in many places. The most prominent, needless to say, is the Chancellor Angela Merkel. But one of the leading figures who came out of the time right around the change was the minister-president of Brandenburg, the state that surrounds Berlin, a guy named Matthias Platzek, who also, for a brief time, until he had to retire or resign for health reasons, was the leader of the Social Democratic Party in Germany. And a conversation with him revealed just how sensitive dealing with this change remains for Germans. He, for example, doesn't like the term Wende. He came out of the sort of grassroots reform movement, especially in the green issues of environmental issues, and was quite prominent in it in the last year, let's say, of the GDR, and quickly moved into politics after the change. But the reason he doesn't like the word Wende is because he believes that it was applied, and I think this can be demonstrated, by Egon Krenz, the head of the very short interim government after Honecker left power, but before the communists were removed, to sort of trivialize or domesticate what was happening after he left power. So Egon Krenz was forced out, and he then later described everything as the Wende, because he wanted to keep the East German Communist Party alive. And it did survive in kind of changed form and continues to be a factor here in Germany today. And then I talked to somebody else who was remarkable, and that's the chief of staff to the foreign minister, Stefan Steinlein is the guy's name. The foreign minister's name is Frank-Walter Steinmeier. And Steinlein had a completely different take on everything. And he had no problem with the term Wende. And as we were talking about how we should try to relate to East Germans or former East Germans during this anniversary year, he said we just need to go for the sort of the visceral reaction, what they liked about the United States, their experience of the United States during the period of the GDR regime, and sort of all the positives that they had associated with the U.S. So we should talk about music, we should talk about popular culture. I mean, these kind of very, very superficial phenomena, or at least very non-political phenomena, were very political in the GDR at the time. And the easiest way to express your opposition to the regime, for example, during the 1960s, was to wear blue jeans. And then there were the American Army jackets. It was all extremely indirect. Yeah. So everything was subtle. you know, what you could get away with, you know, without actually putting yourself at odds with the government and not falling into the dissident category. And it was a kind of quiet, I don't know if it would be as much defiance as just an expression of dissatisfaction with